All right, we're going to call this meeting to order. We're going to pass on roll call, although I'll add that I'm here, if that's what you want to do, Suzanne.
Mayor, we have to close it. We have to announce the public hearing right here.
And then we'll go. Okay?
Yes.
Sounds good. The time is now 7 o'clock p.m. and the executive session has been concluded. Will all participants in the executive session please state their names for the record?
Val Carr.
Kelly Case.
Carol Harvey.
Hillary Labar.
Paul Saunier.
Joel Sawyer.
Jason Myers.
Here.
Darren Tangeman.
Suzanne LeClaire.
Is that everybody? Great. Thank you. If any person who participated in the executive session believes that any substantial discussion of any matters not included in the motion to go into the executive session occurred during the executive session, or that any improper action occurred during the executive session in violation of the open meetings law, I ask that you state your concerns now. Hearing none, the next agenda is the Pledge of Allegiance. Please join me.
I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Okay, thank you very much. We'll move on to agenda item 3 and ceremonies, presentations, and appointments. And Chris Menard, you are welcome to come up.
Thank you, Mayor and Council, for affording the Teen Center an opportunity to come and give a brief update. We're really excited. Today, Chris Menard is our programming supervisor, and PH is our operations supervisor. And Chris is going to, they bring some fabulous energy and a lot of positivity and a lot of passion to support our youth, and I'm really pleased and grateful to have them on the staff.
Good evening.
Hello.
Awesome. How's everybody doing?
Great.
Good. Hey, can I be honest with you guys? It's a little hard for me to stand behind this. Miss Karen, do you mind taking this part for me or no? Okay, I could do it. I could do it. I'm going to stand up here. I'm going to contain myself as much as possible. As you can tell, my name is Chris Menard. I am the special programming supervisor here at the Woodland Park Teen Center, and I am so thankful to be here tonight. I want to just give you guys a quick update of what's going on at the center, because there are some big things happening. So what is going on at the Teen Center, and what recently happened, was we had a spring break camp which happened last week. Can I say it was absolutely amazing? What happened is we were able to serve a total of 15 different kids throughout that week, which was amazing. We did amazing things. Can I give you guys an illustration? One thing I want to show you guys, and what we're all about at the Teen Center, because you may be asking yourself a question. So do a little illustration. I want you guys to put up one finger and close one eye, okay? Can I have you guys do this? One finger and then close one eye. And what I want you to do is focus on this one finger. Can you notice that it's clear? And then look behind it. And can you notice in the background now that that is clear, but the finger has become blurry? Okay, thank you. Awesome. So this may sound strange, but it's very simple. What we're really passionate about here at the Teen Center is giving kids an opportunity to recenter their focus on things that they are passionate about, things that they are good at, and allow them to focus on those and highlight those things. And see, a lot of our kids, a lot of our youth in this community, they may have very big things that are happening in their backgrounds of their lives. And one thing that we have the honor and the privilege of doing is helping them refocus their attention on the things that really matter, their passions and their desires for the future. And what we got to do is we got to have an amazing camp experience with them this past week. And one of those things, and some of those things that we got to do during this camp, as you can tell, is we went to the Dinosaurs Research Center, we went to the Wolf Sanctuary, we did a lot of amazing things throughout this week we had 5 consecutive days of program-intensive days, and what we got to do was every day we got to explore another aspect of maybe their passions and their desires. And one of those days we did a science experiment day. We had a ton of fun. We put some Mentos and some Diet Coke and made it explode. we did sciencey things on that one day. The next day we had an art class. We had a local artist come in, and we got to develop how we could, further their skills as artists. The next day we went to the Dinosaur Center. The following day we went to the Wolf Sanctuary. And as you guys know, we sit on a landmine or a gold mine that is absolutely, it is explosive, but it is very, very chock full of so many potentials and so many opportunities. And what we want to do is we want to highlight those things. And so we got to do that this past week with the spring camp. And we definitely plan on doing that this summer. So this summer, we're going to plan on having more intensive programs, more set up weekly programs, weekly camps, so that it helps highlight some of their passions, highlight some of the joys that they may experience in life, and bring out the true child inside of them. And so what else we're doing right now currently is we're going through a teen boot camp. It sounds intense. It is, but it's also a lot of fun. What CAMP actually stands for is Confident Adolescents Maturing Positively. See, we have such an opportunity, you guys, to minister to the kids in this youth and community that it needs so badly to be harnessed, to help refocus their attention on things such as life skills and help develop those things and sharpen their skills. This is a 6-week series program. We just started it yesterday, and I'm very, very excited to continue it through the next 6 weeks. And what we do is their parents come in, they bring them in, and they're also learning. So the parents are learning, the teens are learning. We're developing our youth while the parents are developing their skills to better their youth. And what we're doing is we're giving them an opportunity to have fun. One of those things we got to do last night, which I had so much fun doing, was we were talking about goal setting. We were talking about the importance of goal setting. Sorry, Mike, yes. I told you it's hard for me. So one thing we did was we talked about goal setting. We talked about how we can get from point A to point B and how it's so important to identify point B. Without knowing your point B, you have no journey to go on. So what we did is we set up a little obstacle course. We had the kids go through the obstacle course while being blindfolded, and then having the other kids on the other side of point B directing them and saying, go left, go right, go left. And they had a ton of fun, but that whole time I was being the big bully. I was playing music behind them, trying to distract them. And see, I was trying to distract them to show them with the music around them that, man, if we get distracted on the music, which is so easy to do so many times, we get distracted in life. We have our big thing behind us, some big picture that sometimes weighs heavy on our lives. If we get distracted on that, then it's impossible to get to point B. So what I said is last night, if you can focus on the direction that the people are trying to give you, then you can get to point B successfully. And that's what we try and do through these classes. Also, just want to give you guys an opportunity to ask questions. Thank you so much. This is me. I like to have fun at the Teen Center, the office. I'm so thankful to get to be there. But if you guys have any questions, I'd like to open this moment up just briefly to go over some questions that you guys may have about the Teen Center, our future programs, some of the kids there, whatever that may be. Please let me know if there's any questions. So I want to open this opportunity up. Yes?
Council? You know what might be helpful, Chris, is if you leave us a contact information or get it to us.
Yes, sir.
Because kind of on the spot for us, we're not thinking in those terms right now. But
totally fine.
We really appreciate what you're doing. I've just heard great things. Your energy and passion clearly is what we need with those kids. And so much appreciated. And be sure we have your contact information and we will get with you. And if you need any help from us, please let us know.
Absolutely.
Thanks very much.
I would mention also, thank you for your presentation. What you have in front of you is a wireless portable mic. So next time you can pull that thing right out and wander around the room and give us a sermon if you want.
You can't operate also. Thank you, Chris.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Okay, we'll move on to item 3B and presentation of Keep America Beautiful President's Circle Resignation Award and Laura Pellegrino. Recognition.
Yeah,
Nice.
they're not resigning.
Thank you.
They're
Recognition.
Thank you, Mayor Levy. My name is Laura Pellegrino. I am the city planner and also the city liaison for Keep Woodland Park Beautiful. And I have to say, it's a hard act following Chris, but I'll try to make it exciting. And I will introduce, first of all, Keep Woodland Park Beautiful, members of the community here who are wearing the green Keep Woodland Park Beautiful shirts. If you could please stand up, even if you're not wearing the shirts, but you're a member of Keep Woodland Park Beautiful. This is Council's committee, and this is Keep Woodland Park Beautiful. This is an affiliate of Keep America Beautiful, and every year, in order to be a part of the President's Circle Award and this recognition, there are certain things that Keep Woodland Park Beautiful has to fulfill, and one of them is they have to have an active committee, which we do, that meets regularly with a diverse representation. There has to be 6 hours of training within that committee related to Keep America Beautiful or Keep Woodland Park Beautiful mission and purpose. And they have to complete events, which we do. Many of those events you have been participants of. And just to remind everyone, Keep Woodland Park Beautiful is doing the citywide cleanup on June 8th this year. And so those are just some of the items that we have to complete to get this President's Circle recognition. Once we get this recognition, it opens up the door to KAB funding, to consider us some of the first recipients of many of the funds and grants that they have available, and also to showcase Keep Woodland Park Beautiful and to allow us to be part of their pilot projects. So Mayor Levy and Val Carr, who is the council representative, if I can get you guys to come around the front, we want to do a photo op with the members of the committee. If you guys will come forward. We'll let the press take pictures. Mayor, I'll let you hold it up.
Thank you.
You gotta try and duck out.
Thank you.
Who's in charge here? Who should I give this to? Jan. All right. Val, you're on this committee. Why don't you present this to Jan?
On behalf of Keep America Beautiful, beautiful President's Circle Recognition Awards for 2018, I'm going to present this to the chair, who is Jan Wilson.
Yay.
Thanks, sir.
Yay. Thank you.
Thank you.
Thanks for your service. Appreciate it.
They got your pictures.
You are. Sorry.
Okay, keeping on with great presentations, we're going to move on to the Citizens Academy graduation, and Darren Tangeman.
I thought I was tripping or something. Thank you.
So, can you hear this? Can you hear this?
Can now.
So tonight we're here to recognize the graduates of our inaugural Citizens Academy. Citizens Academy for Woodland Park. The academy spanned February 13th through April 3rd and went over 7 different primary subject matter. Looking at an overview of the city, starting with an overview of the city in week 1, going through public works in week 2, going through planning in week 3, water treatment in week 4, wastewater treatment in week 5, police department in week 6, and parks just recently. We had 28 participants. Tonight we're gonna recognize 22 of them. They'll graduate. There's some that couldn't make all of the events, and so we're going to offer the opportunity for them to go and visit those, be a part of those next year. I just want to, before we start recognizing these individuals, we plan on having another Citizens Academy next year, with applications opening up in December 6th and closing prior to February 4th, where we'll initiate the second Citizens Academy. So the intent of the Citizens Academy is to improve citizens' understanding of the workings of effective municipal government and encourage citizens' involvement in our community. It also provided hands-on experience for the participants, and it allowed them to ask the really hard questions of our staff during those briefings. I'll tell you, one of the comments that I heard this week from Chris Cease was that he came and watched it was part of this opportunity, and how much fun and how much our employees, our directors and staff enjoy what they do. And I think it was reflective in throughout the Citizens Academy. And so he said that our staff much reflects his staff at Karis, and so I really appreciated that comment because I think that was really true. I think our staff is very passionate about what we do every day, serving our community, and we enjoy it. And so with that, I would like to recognize the 22 graduates tonight, bring them up here. The first one would be Carl Anderson. Good. Come up here. All right. We'll get a photo op. Second is Shannon Anderson. Jane Butterfield. Rock Butterfield. Amy Butterfield is not here tonight, but she also participated in the Academy. Bob Carlson also is a participant. He's not here tonight. John DeVoe.
Great.
Lois DeVoe. Lori Gloster.
Yay, Lori.
Dean Harris. Scott Inslow. Lynn Jones. Elijah Murphy. Cindy Carson.
Two rows.
Put the shorties in the front.
Chris Derek Wagner. Gail Wonder.
Scoot in like you know each other.
You can't see Jane Butterfield, I'll tell you that right now.
Those boys, they should know each other.
She's. Can you see everybody, Karen?
Can you guys squeeze in a little bit?
Jane.
Jane, get up front. Get up front. Yeah, I know. Don't be bashful. Okay, good. I don't want too much glare off my head.
It's good.
Whoa. Sorry, Pat. You know, this is where council and the community gets to thank you, because Darren noted 7 weeks, 3 or 4 hours each time, maybe a little bit less, a little bit more. You all, like I talked about when we first got together, I know almost everybody here. I love what you guys did, and I'm gonna call on a couple people without knowing it and let you tell us a little bit about your experience. But on behalf of the city, we want to thank you. I hope you feel like you're a lot more knowledgeable now than you were before. One of the beautiful things of our city manager, and there are many, is he's got fresh ideas and some things that we've never done before. And this is one that I think has been beneficial to everybody.
Now I'm going to ask you one thing that I think is really important. I know almost all of you. When we do this next year, I would like you all to encourage others in the community to be part of this process so that they too can kind of come up to speed and learn and love about their community. And so that's the job for you between now and December 6th. And everyone's shaking their head because I think everybody was pleased with this process and with the Academy. So let's give a big round of applause to Karen and to Darren and the city staff, because they spent a lot of time. City staff. And everybody gets a mayor's pin. So thank you very much.
Thank you, sir.
Yeah, you bet. Thank you. I should shake everybody's hand or a hug. Or a hug. Thank you.
Debbie, this is
And then we can sit down one by one so you don't have to wait. Thanks, Matt. Thanks very much. You bet. Thank you very much. Thank you. I hope you enjoy it. Good. We better do these ladies first. Otherwise I'll be in trouble. Thank you very much. There you go.
Get one for...
I can hug you guys if I want.
Hey, Rock.
Lois, I get to
Get
hug
one
all the
for your
time.
daughter. Oh, yeah. Yeah, make sure.
There you go, Gail. Thanks very much. You bet.
Very disappointing if you didn't look
Mrs.
after
Miller,
her.
you finally got one. See, Lori, you bet. Thank you, Lori. Thanks very much. And I've got one or two. I got Michelle. There you go. God bless you. There you go. Thank you very much. Thanks. All right, we'll get the rest of these guys. Thank you, Mr. Butterfield. Thank you very much. I'll be glad to.
Amy.
Tell Amy thank you very much. I know, huh?
How many of those do you have, John?
Thank you very much. Thank you, sir. Appreciate it. You bet.
Yeah. Right.
Thank you, sir. I'm glad. Well, I'm going to have you come up and talk here in 1 second. Let's go right over there. Okay?
We only
Yeah,
allow him
thank
to
you.
do that because he's got his other hand full.
Good. Dave, thank you very much. Really
So, another thing I wanted to say is that the staff, staff was some of them were a little bit apprehensive doing this initially. But it was interesting to see several of the staff come to me over time and say, hey, now I get it. I understand why we're doing this, and they could see the benefit of this. And I really saw the passion, and Sally, being a former teacher, she loved it. I mean, you could see it in her eyes too. So, and you could see it in every one of the presentations, being able to show off the pride in the facilities that we had and the job that we do every single day. And with that, the one staff member that I think we really need to recognize tonight is Karen. Right? Right. Karen put hours into this and days trying to get this here, Karen. These are for you.
beautiful.
And I think most all the participants know the time and effort that Karen put into this, organizing this, the information she put out, just keeping everybody up to speed. There were some bumps in the road with this bomb cyclone and everything that happened. But I think ultimately it went over. It went pretty smoothly. Is that agreeable? I mean, are we? Yeah. So.
Look at Norma.
What's that? So, thank you, Karen. You got anything to say?
It was just an awesome experience, and I am so grateful to the participants because you're who made this successful along with the staff. And I believe the staff all believe that the hard work they put in is well worth it. And I know that you'll be able to help inform us to improve our processes for next time. So thank you very much. Thanks.
Thank you, Karen. So, Chris, I think you have some comments.
Well, the mayor says I have to have some comments, so.
Chris, give us your name and address and give us some comments.
My name is Chris Cease. I live out on, 1321 Masters Park Masters Drive out on a golf course. My wife and I have lived here since 2014, and we are just blessed to be part of this community. And when the opportunity to learn about the city through the Citizens Academy, so now I'm a citizen. I've got my diploma that says I am. It was just a blessing to be a part of this, to get to meet the staff. And as a taxpayer here, can I tell you, it's just nice to the folks that work here, that you know that they're looking out for you all the time. There's just a great sense of dedication. There's a sense of excellence in everything that they do. There's a sense of what else can I do. I mean, man, that just blesses me to no end, to know that I live in a city that really cares about its citizens, about its property, about its land, about its water, about everything, about its poop. I mean, you know, I learned some things at our police department and the dedication that they have to what's going on and to protect us. There's just things that you don't know. I was telling my wife last night, we learned at the through Parks and Rec that there's a babysitter boot camp. Now, I don't know. That just, to me, just says they're reaching out to the community to make it better for our youth, to make it better for all of us. So, you know, I thank God for y'all. I thank God for this city, and I'm just glad to be a part of it. So, thanks a lot.
Thanks, Chris.
I appreciate y'all having this.
That's great. You know what? It's hard for me to believe we've never done this, but now that we do, right, everybody will agree this is what we're all about, right? Working together, trying to get better, trying to learn more. And so I'll just conclude by saying thank you very much. And remember your challenge for me, please. I want to talk to 25 people I've never seen next year at this time and continue the process through the years, because you all know how beneficial it is and how it can help others. And so thank you all very much. Darren, thank you, Karen, staff, everybody. Just a great experience, and we're very, very blessed. So thank you. You bet.
Thanks, Darren.
Okay, we will move on to my friend Shane Cornell. Where's Shane? I saw him here earlier. There he is. And we've got a special event coming that Shane and I talked about maybe a year ago, and it's coming to fruition here soon.
Thank you.
Go ahead, pull it out.
Mr. Mayor, is that what I call you when I'm here?
Call me whatever you want.
Coach, Neil, whatever. Okay. Yeah, my name is Shane Cornell. My wife and I are relatively new here. This will be our third year here in Woodland Park. And here today to talk about the music festival. It's kind of the opposite of what Chris was talking about. Not really the opposite, I guess, but he talked about having kids trying to stay focused on something while they had all this noise and distraction going on around them and trying to maintain that focus. I want to talk about a bunch of us adults forgetting about all the distractions and loving the noise, which is hopefully what we're gonna do when this date comes up. I got the idea for this. Well, it kind of evolved before I talked to Neil, like he said. Just that beautiful Midland Pavilion area and the music and the capability of that place. And when my wife were up here, we spent our first summer checking out all the things that go on around town, and it was great. And we kept wondering if there was going to be this kind of like the music festival there. If there was really going to be a showcase of the town and that view, and with music set to it, and what that would be like. We go to music festivals all the time. We always have. We're big live music fans. And we really enjoy that. And so I kept talking about it, and one of the bands that I'll show you here in a second are some friends of mine. Actually, all the bands are friends of mine, but I thought about, man, it'd be great to have those guys up here to play some of that music as the sun's going down over Pikes Peak. And after a couple years of talking about that, I think my friends got tired of hearing it and basically said, you either need to stop talking about that or do something about it. So I started to do something about it. And when I got the idea to start putting things together and maybe just break even with a few friends to enjoy a show, I started expanding a little bit and thinking that it might be good to do something for a cause. And that's where CASA got involved. As I started talking to some other friends around town, that name was brought up quite a few times. I learned a lot about CASA. I actually met with them last fall. They loved the idea, and so the majority of the funds are going to be dedicated to directly to CASA, and they promised me that all those funds would stay up here in Teller County, not just in the Pikes Peak region to be sent out. So that was a really great cause. So what I wanted to do is talk a little bit about the festival itself, what it's going to look like, who the bands are. I apologize, I made this presentation with the intent of putting music to every picture that comes into the thing, because they're all kind of pictures to me that represent some of the songs that these bands do. So I wasn't able to put that on the slide at this point because I've got a family and a day job and things like that besides this to do. So I'm going to sing for you guys when it comes up. So now's the time to duck and cover if you need to. Actually, I'm not going to sing, but I might speak to it a little bit. Some of you may have seen the website that we have up and some of the Facebook postings and things like that. Ticket sales are up already. But I wanted to talk a little bit about how it came about. It's a one-day live music festival on Saturday, June 1st, 2019 in Woodland Park, featuring music from the 60s, 70s, and 80s this year. There may be some songs from the 50s, maybe even some songs from the 2000s, but that's predominantly what it's going to be. There's a picture of the Midland Pavilion. You guys know where that is? Everybody know where that is? Okay, no questions there? Okay. What a view. It's going to be a great day, great night. So this is right off of the website. I thought really hard about almost kind of like a mission statement for what we're trying to do here, and I'll just read it. The Lo-Tu Music Festival was founded as a way to not only bring great live music to the city above the clouds and to Teller County, but also as an engine to help give back to the community by partnering with nonprofit organizations, helping raise funds annually for their efforts. Plan to do this every year as long as it lasts and keeps going and hopefully builds. Those of us who are lucky enough to live here appreciate the beauty of what we have. Again, I've partnered with CASA, Court-Appointed Special Advocates for Children. Been working with them directly. I speak to Angela probably once a week, sometimes 2 or 3 times a day. It just depends on what we're working on. Really got a lot of things going on logistically now with the festival and putting that together. Great group, great cause. We're going to have some of the people from CASA, probably one of the kids that benefited from that group, speak during the show at some point and present. We're obviously going to give them whatever funds that we raise for them at the event, and they'll also have a booth set up inside the Cultural Center where people can get more information about the cause as we work through it. My plan at this point, again, if this continues year by year and annually, is to stay with CASA for as long as that relationship works unless something changes. So, it's going to be a classic rock extravaganza. This is where the music was supposed to cue up and everything was supposed to go great. But here's a list of some of the bands, or not the bands, but, well, the bands that you will hear, not the bands that are playing.
Covers, right?
Down the road, the idea, and I've actually almost got a couple of national acts that were ready to come in this year. It was just a price issue. So if we can raise the funds, we can get national acts to come here to town and make this a destination for people to come and visit. And it would be amazing to see somebody like a 38 Special or a Night Ranger or a Loverboy playing on that stage, I think. So the Eagles, of course, Paul McCartney, Journey, Def Leppard, Bon Jovi, Kansas, Toto, Heart, Boston, Stevie Ray Vaughan. You guys can read through the rest of that. That's a sample of the diversity of the music that's going to be played there. I really wanted to go with a bunch of, well, we've got 3 cover bands, basically, and then 1 cover band that plays one group, the Eagles. And the music performances by, again, I wish I really had the music here for this. It was kind of cool. Slow Iguana Crossing. So this is a really great band out of Denver. They're actually opening up for a couple of bigger acts before our show, June 1st, and they play a lot of kind of southern rock type stuff, and like Blackfoot and Leonard Skinner and some Stones, Black Crowes. And some other diverse things. They have a really pretty big library, but I'm trying to segregate which bands play which songs so that they don't overlap each other. Louisiana Lou is the lead singer of this group. That's their logo. There's Louisiana Lou right in the middle. They got that kind of southern look, don't they? Those guys are going to open up the show at the beginning of the day, and they'll play for about an hour and a half. After that, somebody you guys might know.
Oh, yeah.
Locally, Carrie Dell. Wouldn't be a show without her. When I first talked about doing the show, it was always, who am I going to get to come up here and who's going to play after Carrie Dell plays, basically. She's amazing. We've seen her so many times and just blown away at her musical talent. I just think it's only right to have somebody like that on stage, possibly every year for the show as it comes up. And there's her and John messing around a little bit. Some of the good pictures that she gave us to use, and she's obviously played on the stage before. Steve Thomas Band is my wife's favorite cover band out of Denver. These guys play all of the 80s stuff. From them, you will hear the Bon Jovi, the Def Leppard, the Loverboy, the Toto, 38 Special, Journey, a lot of Journey. This guy, he sounds just like Steve Perry when he plays. It's amazing. And he's got some really good Memphis-trained musicians that work together with him. They're really excited to come up, and they've worked a lot with the Eagles cover band that I've got coming too, which is, and there's Steve with his keyboardist. Scott Malott, great guy there, having a good time there. And headlining the show is Colorado's own tribute to the Eagles, The Long Run. Has anybody seen these guys in here besides me? Okay. So you guys know. I didn't see, I'm sorry, did anybody up here? Nobody seen these guys? Nobody on council has seen these guys? You guys are in for a treat. If you love the Eagles music, you guys can probably attest to this. This is 2.5, 3 hours of really, really good Eagles music. These guys are friends of mine. I actually used to play with the lead guitarist down in Denver at our church together, and that's how I know these guys and from seeing them over the years. And so when I called them, they're like, absolutely, we'll come up. So and it was really reasonable, which worked out good for us. So again, I was hoping to have some music with this because a lot of these pictures go along with what they're doing. The guy here on the far right, I don't know if you guys know much about the history of the band. Those guys might know it, but Billy on the far right is the bass player, and then Steve on the far left is the lead guitarist and singer. These guys were in Firefall for 25 years, and then left Firefall to come over and start playing with this Eagles band. And the musicianship that these guys bring and the vocals and stuff are just incredible. So again, I really wish I had the music to go along with this so you could see what you're going to be getting out there and what the crowd's going to be getting. There's Steve hitting the high notes. There's Adam, my buddy I used to play with. Great guitarist, great musician. Mark Trippency's the drummer, and he sings all the Don Henley stuff, and he sounds like Don Henley. Sounds really good. It's amazing stuff if you like the Eagles. I think I put... There's Billy hitting all the high notes, and there they are doing, up front, probably doing Seven Bridges Road or something like that they do, which, again, it's just amazing when you see that live. And there was the money shot here somewhere. There we go. That's them doing Hotel California. The two guitarists up front playing that great guitar at the end of it. My picture when I envisioned this thing from day one was that going on right when the sun's going down over Pikes Peak. Everybody just forgetting all their stresses and their worries and enjoying the fact that we live in this beautiful place and we can enjoy that great music for one day a year. That's what I'm hoping to bring to the community, as well as giving to a good cause. And I finished it up with just a statement. And again, I wrote this, and it's available on the website. It has a way of taking us back in time to a place where we remember where we were, what we were doing the first time we heard a song. Who doesn't have something like that? Maybe some of these songs will be it. Reminds us of how great life is or can be like no other stimulation to the senses. We hope that the festival becomes a cherished part of Tiller County for decades to come and gives everyone that one chance a year to set all worries, stress, busy schedules aside and lose yourself in a day of good friends, great food, and amazing live music. So that's the hope. That's what we're working on. Does anybody have any questions about anything?
Council?
Thank you. One of the things I did when I first came here was it formed a vocal acoustic rock band. And we do doo-wop, late 60s, early 70s, all the way up there. And there's a tremendous market for that up there. We're kind of dormant right now. But tremendous. We did covers on everything, Righteous Brothers, Beach Boys, old Platter songs, a bunch of other things, Eagles and things like that. So I'm really glad to see this because this is going to be great. It's going to just be fabulous. So I know absolutely because there's a market in it because I was the head of the band singing bass. But I welcome this effort that you're putting together. And I hope you're successful. I'm pretty certain you will be because we had a tremendous following in our little acoustic band. So this would be some good groups. Sugar Bear's another one you ought to consider.
Sugar Bear. Yeah. Well, I appreciate that. Yeah, it's the feedback has been amazing. I haven't talked to anybody that kind of went, I don't know if that's going to go over well.
No, I don't.
Yeah, good luck with that. It's been so positive that it's grown. It's not out of control, but much bigger than I had originally planned. And I've embraced that to a certain extent because I'm driven by the cause now as well. Before it was just kind of let's have some music and have some fun with some friends. but now that I know that it's also going to be given back to the community and especially to the kids. My wife works with the kids up at the high school all the time. It's just one of those things that I think is near and dear to us. And like I said, and we've been to so many festivals, and I started thinking about things. We've got the whole inside of the cultural center to use. I didn't even talk about this yet. We're going to have a photo booth set up in the cultural center, potentially a couple of virtual reality games that are kind of like Guitar Hero going on, a classic rock experience inside. We're just going to do some other really cool things that haven't been done up here that not only make it a music festival of a decent caliber, and for next year to attract more revenues generated, and maybe even a top name act to be coming into town, maybe makes it just so exclusive that 10 years from now we're talking about big chunks of money that we're giving to these kids and doing some really good things. We're going to utilize the deck on the library as the VIP area. That's going to be dressed up for people that are involved in it, some of our big sponsors. I'm working behind the scenes on trying to get a couple of celebrities to come up and hang out for that too. That I think would be really cool. Just some little things like that are going to make it different. Some bleachers up at the top behind so people can sit down and enjoy it without having to worry about being on the grass or standing up too much. A lot of little neat things that I have going on and planned for this. So I encourage everybody, if you have any questions, thoughts, if you have any ideas, other people that might want to be involved, I'm going to be needing some more volunteers down the road. Everybody wants to volunteer to help, and I'm also going to, again, any money that wants to be donated. I have a sponsorship form, but by any means, if somebody wants to just donate $100 to the cause as part of the festival that we're looking into this, by all means, just refer them my way. The information's on the poster out there.
There's another aspect that we had success with. Rampart Rock and Jazz was the name of the group. We did a sock hop format, so you could do that in the Cultural Center too. Just a suggestion.
It's interesting. Well, I talked about, and I don't know if Carl's here or not. I don't know if I remember, but I talked about working with the Cruise Above the Clouds guys. We're going to close off Midland Avenue, and I'm trying to get Rockabilly's down in Arvada to work with us. I was going to set it up as kind of a soda shop type 50s, 60s atmosphere down below on Midland, and serve some food down there and drinks and have it be kind of that type of location. That's when you said something about your group. I thought maybe you guys could do a couple songs in between acts.
Oh, no, I wasn't. But yeah, just some ideas.
Shane, thanks very much for your time.
Sure.
Would you be sure we have your contact information or the website so we can contact you if we need to? Just
Absolutely. It's all, you got a temporary use permit with all my information on it. I think a couple people have my business cards.
Suzanne, can you just make sure we get that?
I can leave here if you need
I'll
me
put it
to.
in the minutes.
Shane, thanks very much.
All right.
Great job.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Okay, council, we'll move on to additions, deletions, or corrections if we have any. We don't. Suzanne, how about the consent calendar?
How about it, Mayor? Tonight we have one item on the consent calendar, and that is the minutes of the March 21st, 2019 council meeting.
Council, any questions? If not, we'll call for a motion.
Motion.
Go right ahead, Mr.
Motion to approve minutes of March 21st, including the rest of the consent calendar, which is included in the consent calendar. Sorry.
There we go. Motion to approve the consent calendar and a second from Kelly Case.
Thank
Suzanne.
you. Carr?
Yes.
Case?
Yes.
Harvey?
Yes.
Labar?
Yes.
Levy?
Yes.
Soinier? Sawyer?
Yes.
Thank you. Motion carries unanimously.
Great, thanks, Suzanne. Okay, I have two people signed up for public comment, and if there's anybody else, please raise their hand afterwards, and we will start with Stephanie Alfieri.
Hello, Stephanie Alfieri, 361 West Highway 24. Tonight I'm here to speak to you on behalf of Woodland Park Main Street. We want to announce and let everyone know that next Wednesday night we will be having a community session. This is to reveal the market analysis report that's been provided to your local Woodland Park Main Street. It was funded by the Colorado Department of Local Affairs on behalf of Main Street. So next Wednesday evening, we will be having that community session to reveal the report. To give you an idea of what it involves, it was done by RPI Consultants. It involves consumer demographics as well as market analysis. It has a little bit of a leakage study to it as far as business that goes down the path. And then it also focuses on businesses that might be oversaturated here as well as businesses that are undersaturated. So we're just here to invite everyone, council and our stakeholders as well as all of the partners, business owners, and all of the public at large is welcome. It is, again, next Wednesday, April 10th, from about 6:30 to 8:30 at the Cultural Center, and we hope to see everyone there.
No, it's here.
It's here?
It's here.
It's here. There we go. Thank you, Sally.
We're going to stream.
Oh, and it's going to be streamed, so perfect. But we really hope you show up in person. Love to
Thanks,
have your
Steph.
input and involvement. Thank
Thanks
you.
for all your hard work. Thank you very much. Okay, next I've got, and I'm sorry, Scott, I don't know what this says. Tavis? Oh, yeah. There you go.
Looks
Now I
just
see
like
it.
that.
You write a little bit like I do, so no, you're good. Thanks, Mr. Jones. If you'll give us your name once again and your address before you start.
My name is Scott Jones, and for the last 16 years I've lived at 450 Timber Lane. About 9 months ago I was here addressing the council regarding the Microtel Hotel that's being built in our backyard. During that discussion, I and my neighbors weren't in opposition to the hotel, but we did want to make sure that some concerns that we had were going to be addressed through the planning process and the approval process. For the most part, that's happened. The council told me at that time if I had any concerns to come back and let you know about those. We've had several incidents since the development began. We haven't had to come back because the city staff have been very good at taking care of those things. Our yard was flooded several times. One time they even had to bring some heavy equipment in to scrape off all the construction debris that covered our yard. And there's been a lot of trash and construction debris that's blown down the hill during some of the storms that we've had as well. But most of the time these things have been able to be resolved. One of the big concerns we had was wanting a barrier between our property and the hotel. We wanted that for a number of reasons. One is the parking lot the parked cars their lights would shine right in the back of our house. Trash blowing down the hill was another concern that we had. But one of the biggest concerns we have is safety. The fact that we're going to have, I don't know how many rooms there are in that hotel, but let's say there's 50 rooms, we could have upward of 100 new neighbors every single night. And that's a huge concern for us. There are young kids that live in the neighborhood. A lot of parents have discussed all of these concerns. My backyard backs right up to that property. Mark did agree to put in a barrier between the hotel and our properties. And the barrier that he put in, what he put in, I don't have any complaints about. I think he did a really good job. He put in a wall with a 6-foot tall wooden fence on. Unfortunately, it's the pieces that aren't there that I have a big concern about. There are 2 segments of the fence that are open. And so instead of putting one solid fence line, he put a fence and then stepped it back about 10 feet, another piece of fence, and then moved it back to the original line and went like that. So there's a gap in that fence. At one end, that gap is about 8 feet. At the other end, it's about 3 feet. We had some initial discussions through Sally, and Sally's wonderful. We really, really appreciate her, where we agreed not to push the issue because Mark wanted his construction crews to be able to get through that fence line to pick up trash and those types of things. But the agreement was that we would address that problem before they got their certificate of occupancy. We're getting very close to that point now, and I haven't talked to Mark directly, but I've had conversations with Sally. Sally's had conversations with Mark, and Mark is adamant that he's not going to close off those gaps. In my mind, this represents a real security issue for myself and for the rest of our neighbors. Having a gap in that fence, in my mind, just leads to curiosity. Somebody, what's on the other side of this fence? I'm wanting to go through there. We still have a lot of trash that blows through there, and where that gap is where his dumpsters are going to be. And again, our original understanding when we came to the council was that there was going to be a solid barrier between that hotel and our residential properties. We've agreed that putting a gate up there would be more than sufficient. That would still allow Mark to get, past the fence and to his property line if he needed to, for them to pick up trash or anything else. So we think putting a gate up there would be, sufficient to blocking that off. But we think that needs to be blocked off. But my understanding is he is not willing to do that whatsoever, and is pretty adamant about that. So I wanted to come back to the council. You guys told me to come back if I had some concerns. I do have some, these concerns. Unfortunately, my printer died, but I do have some pictures if anybody wants to see them of that gap in that fence line. Like I said, one area, the top picture is actually taken from my house. So this is, you can actually see through that gap from the side of my house, right on the sidewalk which runs right abuts my house. And the other one is taken from the back of the property line, so you can actually see how big that gap is. So if anybody has any questions or anything for me, but I certainly appreciate the time to come before you guys and express those concerns.
Thanks, Scott. I'm going to defer to Sally and ask her if she can help us understand.
I can let you know that when Scott and I spoke today, our plan was to meet with Mr. Rabot again on site, and if we can go back to him and let him know that City Council really feels that a gate and a continuous fence is important, then I think that will help us negotiate this in a hopefully win-win decision.
Council? Thoughts, Paul?
It's a very good question. It's very interesting when somebody digs their heels in, but he feels that he needs to have that open for the deer to be able to move through, that they're important for his hotel guests, and
the deer can walk 50 yards further down and go around the fence.
And that he needs direct access to his property, which goes down to the bottom of the hill. Yeah, understand. In all fairness, he is not here this evening, so if you don't mind letting us try to negotiate with him with your support.
I was just going to ask. I wasn't here, I don't think, on council when that was negotiated. And I was just wondering, do you expect the gates to be as tall as the fence as well? Or could they be not quite as tall, but still a barrier? The deer are capable of hopping quite a distance. Yeah. Just a suggestion. So.
I mean, I'm certainly willing to talk with him about something, but it needs to be something that somebody would have to be really determined to want to get over that gate and into our neighborhood.
Sure. Thanks.
You'd like us to come to some consensus so that we can encourage Mr. Rabot to fill those gaps? Is that what you need from us?
Sally?
Yeah, I mean, Mark is a very strong-willed individual, and as Sally said, I think he's dug his feet in, and talking with him in the past has been a challenge at times, but I'm more than happy to meet with him with Sally, and I think that's a good thing to do. But again, you guys told me to bring my concerns back, and so that's what I wanted to do here today.
Scott, I'm pretty familiar with Mark. I know him really, really well, and so I'd like to be involved in that conversation, and I think that I could possibly help. I just want to hear the pros and the cons, and so we'll go from there. I'll help in any way we can, and just knowing him the way I do, at least we can have that conversation and go from there.
Yeah.
Would that satisfy you, at least to this point?
Absolutely.
Okay. Appreciate it. Go ahead. I'm sorry.
I have one more quick question. Was this a gentleman's agreement, or is this part of the contractual agreement?
My understanding is this was part of the plans that were approved, that he would put in a barrier along the top of the hill there. And it wasn't until later, when they actually put the barrier up, that this gap developed.
Okay,
But
thank you.
again,
Sally?
Sally could answer that better.
Do they need to finish the fence to get their CO? No. That's the $64,000 question.
This is an interpretation. Do you feel that when we go out, you'll be able to see? The code requires a solid fence between commercial and residential. It is a solid fence. It's just offset in a short area, so it's more of an interpretation. So we're trying to negotiate. The plans just had X's all along that side. It did not show a line that continuously connected those X's, which is what a fence is. So it's a little bit of a gray area. We have disagreement between two property owners as to what should be accomplished. So it's a little sticky situation.
We'll sit down and talk about it.
There's nothing memorialized in any of the documents associated with the project that identifies or defines what that barrier is.
That clearly defines what the fence is, yes.
I know Mark pretty well, too. I think there's some room there, as Neil said, to talk about. Certainly a gate sounds like it presents a pretty good, so for my consensus part of this council, I would encourage that to happen. And Neil's be a great ambassador.
We'll put that meeting together, Scott, and we'll try to figure it out, and maybe we can achieve a great outcome.
Okay. I appreciate that. Since we have a representative from the police department here, I would just like to get your take on, and I know you haven't actually seen it, but as far as having a barrier between our neighborhood and that new Microtel hotel.
Since you're asking civil law questions, I'm not going to answer.
Okay.
I've got an attorney over there that might be answering.
I was, I guess, more interested in your opinion as a police officer. If our concerns regarding having people cross that boundary line is a concern, I understand your answer. I'm okay with that.
Yeah, I'm not willing to give you an answer on that. Sorry.
Thank you.
Thanks very much, Scott.
All right, thank you. Sorry to take up so much.
No, I'm glad you're here. Sally and/or I will reach out to you.
All right, thank you very much.
Okay, thank you. Yes, sir. Please do.
What was the situation for all the debris in the backyard? Not trash.
This was during the very severe storms, and the detention facility had not been tied into the inlet, and so it bumped, went over the curb, went down the hill. It was not controlled on site, the storm water.
So I want to ask a very specific
Yes, sir.
This was a 100-year storm that we experienced, and with these temporary BMPs in place, they did the best they could. But the site was not finished so that the inlet was functioning. It did not go into the inlet. Instead, it went over the curb. So there were rock socks in front of the inlet, and there was no asphalt down at that time. So it was a project under construction that could not handle a very severe downpour. And so the event occurred, unfortunately.
All erosion control was compromised. It rained really hard.
Anybody else? Scott, thanks again. We'll be in touch. You bet. Anybody else on item number 6 that has not signed up? Okay, we'll move on. There's no unfinished business or ordinances on initial posting, so we'll move on to public hearings. And before we start, council members use electronic devices to access the materials relevant to the public hearing before us. Be assured that it is the common practice of this city council that these devices are not being used for texting, emailing, or other communications during public hearings. So number 9A is to approve ordinance number 1343, and Laura Pellegrino.
Thank you, Mayor Levy. So this is an application by Reox to rezone, and they're also asking for an approval of a conditional use permit. It's to rezone from multifamily suburban to community commercial, and the conditional use permit is for section 1809090R1, which is light repair service use. The applicant, Todd and Nancy Shaw, S3 Investments LLC, have submitted this request, and they are also here tonight and will be doing a brief presentation. This all relates to Lot 13, Paradise Estates filing number 2, with an address of 540 Manor Court. This application for both the rezone and the conditional use permit did go in front of the Planning Commission for a public hearing on March 14th, 2019. The minutes of that public hearing were attached to the packet that was distributed to all of the council members. And the Planning Commission did recommend approval as recommended by staff. City Council had the first reading on the 2 ordinances that are being considered tonight, and that was on March 21st. And tonight we are here for the public hearing for both the rezoning and the conditional use permit. And it is April 4th, 2019. Here is a brief overview of the site. You can see that it is in the southeast quadrant of the city, right there, big red dot. This is an aerial showing the location of the site and the existing rooftop you see right here, and the site itself is located highlighted in yellow. What this aerial also shows is some of the existing topography out surrounding the site, and it also shows some of the existing structures and uses surrounding the site. So, for instance, to the east is the Paradise Pines townhomes, and you can see the townhomes run all along Manor Court, and then on the other side this way. So to the north is the Woodland Park Cemetery, and then to the west are the parking lots that were associated with this former building, which was at one time the Teller County offices. And then you see the commercial development along Highway 24, and those are office buildings, restaurants, the bike shop, etc. So that gives you an idea of some of the surrounding uses. This is a facade, the front facade of the existing building, and it pretty much looks like that today. And this is an excerpt from the plat showing the approximately half-acre Lot 13 that we are discussing tonight. This is the zoning map. The site is highlighted again in this yellow circle, and you can see that the current zoning on this site is multifamily residential suburban, MFS. And that is the same zoning that the townhomes immediately to the east are zoned. You can see to the west is the community commercial, the hot pink zone district. And the applicant is applying to rezone from the residential MFS zone district, which is orange, to the community commercial zone district, which is immediately adjacent to the west and is pink. So it would be an extension of the community commercial zone district, the rezoning. And you can also see that this is a commercial area all along Highway 24, a high-density residential, and then public lands are what you're seeing in this public, semi-public land in this, I guess that's a blue color. And the red hash is the DDA boundary. So these are some images from the cul-de-sac looking into the site. This is the existing building, some of the existing landscaping that you're seeing, the existing parking lot, and the existing fencing and signage, which of course the applicant will change. Gives you an idea of what you're looking at. It's a single-story, low building. This is from the top of the cul-de-sac on Manor Court looking south. The townhomes are here to the left. And this is the building here to the right that you can't see. But here you're looking over the commercial buildings. This is Casa Grande here, and you're looking southwest. And this is from the bottom end of Manor Court looking north towards the top of the cul-de-sac. You can see what the townhomes look like. Here is one townhome, the one that's furthest to the north and furthest to the west. And this is the actual building that the applicant is proposing his use in and the lot that he is proposing to rezone. It gives you an idea of some of the surrounding area and the neighborhood. The townhomes, again, are to the right here. You can see there are no curb and gutter. This is an existing road. Existing facilities reach into this site, and the area is fully serviced. This is an aerial showing some of the construction around the site. So the site is this building right here that was built in 1981. The townhomes were built shortly thereafter in and around 1983 along this side and this side. Some of these buildings along the highway were built in the 1950s. Serrano's was built in 1946, although I don't believe it's landmarked. Many of the buildings were built in the 80s. Casa Grande, of course, was built in 2008, and many of them, again, were built in the 80s. So this building pretty much was one of the first original buildings in this area, in this neighborhood, if you don't count Serrano's and...
So, Laura, when it was constructed, was it community commercial?
It was commercial when it was constructed in 1981.
And so changing it over to residential, how did that occur with that structure there?
Well, in I believe it was 79, we did an overhaul, citywide overhaul of zoning, and at that time it was rezoned, 97, sorry. It was rezoned to multifamily suburban residential. I can only speculate as to why it was done that way, and it was probably because of the townhomes that exist to the east. But it had existed since 1981, since its construction, as commercial. Actually, before 1981, there was a brief period when it was annexed into the city where it was zoned residential, but it was vacant, and it never got developed as residential. So, and there's a brief history in the staff report on the first page that talks a little bit about how this area became developed. So that. For a portion, it was considered a non-conforming use. I'm not sure when the county offices moved in there, but and it was owned by the state, actually, so it was state land for a long time. There are many non-conforming uses in the city. At any rate, it did operate successfully as the Taylor County offices, and before that it was a daycare facility, child daycare facility. All right, this is a site plan showing the actual footprint of the building. So they are not changing the footprint in any way. What they are changing is they're expanding the loading area so that they can get their vehicles into here to load and unload their equipment and their materials. So there's just a slight increase in this loading area from what it looked like before. The parking lot is existing and can facilitate the number of vehicles proposed for this use. And they are looking at, and they have already submitted for their building permit to renovate the interior to meet the needs of the proposed business. These are images of the front facades, of all the four sides of the facade. You can see what they're showing here is the existing facade, and then here's what they're proposing. So they're adding a canopy on top, they're a metal awning, which they hope to keep to an earth tone color. They suggested rust. We're not holding them to the rust color, but we are asking that they conform to the mountain western theme that the city likes to see. And a rust earth tone color in the awning would accomplish that. They're also looking at replacing the siding with a sage green stucco. Again, we're not tying them to this color, but the fact that they're adding stucco and improving the facade is well appreciated by the city. Again, they're changing this side too, very minor changes, but again, upgrading and enhancing the building. So it'll go from this to this, and they're removing some windows. So there will be an improvement to the exterior as well as improvements to the interior. So staff did a complete review and analysis of this rezoning and conditional use permit application. We did a referral to various city departments, including the Utilities Department, the Public Works Department, and the Building Department. We also referred the application to external agencies such as the Northeast Teller County Fire Protection District, IREA Black Hills, and CenturyLink, TDS Cable. No concerns or complaints or issues were raised by any of these agencies, both internal and external. We did a public notice of both the Planning Commission and tonight's public hearing. We did an on-site poster, and we mailed out letters to all property owners within 150 feet of this site. Just wanted to reiterate the zoning here is considered, it is currently multifamily residential suburban. And what was attached to the staff report was a comparison. They want to go from the multifamily to the community commercial zone district. And so what this does is show you a little bit about the differences. Primarily the difference is changing it from a exclusively residential use to a commercial use. Now the commercial use also allows for residential, and it is not losing the residential capability on this site. So that's just something to take note of. So all of the conditional uses that are permitted in the community commercial zone district would have to come before council before they could be approved, and that is why he's also submitting his application for the conditional use permit, as we had discussed. So some of the changes, there's not a lot of changes between MFS and CC zone districts. For instance, the height of a building in the MFS zone district is only 30 feet. It's 5 feet higher in the community commercial zone district. However, the applicant's not proposing to change the height or the exterior footprint of the building at this time. These setbacks are the same, except in the commercial zone it has to be 15 feet next to a residential zone. It is 15 feet next to the multifamily zone to the east. The signs are the same requirements. They have to get a sign permit. Parking, they have to meet the parking requirements. If it were going to be a residential development, they would have needed up to 28 parking spaces. As a commercial development, they need up to 30, and they've got adequate space for up to 30 parking spaces. And all the other differences, there really aren't a lot. The landscaping, if for a commercial property, they have to have 25% of the lot landscaped. A lot of the landscaping that exists on site is existing trees, existing native grasses, and they're not proposing to change that in any way, except for a little bit of a bump out that will expand their loading area. The open space requirements for residential are 40% of the site, and a little bit less for residential, 15 to 20%. And again, they're not changing the open space requirements. So staff did a complete review and analysis of the application for rezoning, and we asked 6 questions when an applicant proposes to rezone a site. The first question is this consistent? Is the rezoning consistent with the 2010 comprehensive plan map? This is an excerpt from that map showing what the proposed land use is envisioned pursuant to the comprehensive plan for this site. It is envisioned as mixed use, which is commercial and residential mixed use, which is what is reflected in the zoning. And what this applicant is proposing is a commercial use. So is it consistent with the plan map? Yes, it is. It's a mixed use. They're proposing commercial. There's still the opportunity for residential if any developer or even this developer wants to bring in residential. Question number 2, is it consistent with the 2010 comprehensive plan goals, objectives, actions, and strategies? Yes, staff did we pulled out a few objectives and principles and put them in the staff report. Essentially, it complies with principles that promote and encourage economic diversity. It encourages the development to meet the character of Woodland Park, which is the Mountain Western theme. And it meets the ability to provide jobs within the city. There are many principles that this proposal will meet if it is rezoned. So another question we ask is, what changed? What has changed in the surrounding area, the surrounding zoning, the surrounding land uses that warrant a rezoning change? And staff's answer to this question is, not much has changed. It has characteristically been used as a commercial building. It was developed as a commercial building despite previous zoning, residential zonings. It is appropriate for commercial to come back into this building. It's built for a commercial use, and it would be easily facilitated for a new commercial business to move into this use. So what's changed? Not much. But the thing is, it was commercial in the past, and it will be successfully commercial in the future, and it can be. Is the community commercial zone appropriate? Staff believes it is. The adjacent zoning to the west is community commercial. This is an extension of that same commercial zone district. All the uses that would be allowed on all of the properties to the west would also be allowed on this property, and the applicant is proposing to get the conditional use permit that would permit his use to move into this site. Is there available water, and is there available wastewater? Yes, and it would be a good use of an existing fully serviced building. All the infrastructure is in place, the road is there and adequate, there is water there and adequate, there is wastewater connection, and it's adequate for the proposed use. So staff does find that a rezoning from an MFS zone district to a CC zone district would be appropriate and adequate and available, and is recommending it for this site. So the second application relates to a conditional use permit. As this council knows, there are 11 standards that we look at when we look at a conditional use permit, and I'm very briefly going to touch on these. Of course, there is a more detailed explanation in the staff report. So is there a need for this use at this site? Yes, there's an existing commercial building. This is an appropriate use for a commercial business to move into, and it is located in an area surrounded by commercial to the west, and it would be easily facilitated. Is there any injury to public health and welfare? The staff believes there is none. Are there going to be any effects to the property values? Yes, they will go up. If a vacant property, which this property is currently unoccupied, were to be upgraded and occupied, we believe that there will be an increase in value not only to the residential properties immediately to the east, but also to the commercial properties to the west. Will this proposed conditional use harmonize with the area? Yes, it will harmonize with both the residential and the multifamily residential and the commercial uses that are surrounding the area. Does it conform to the city plans? Yes, staff believes it does, both to the objectives and to the map. Does it conform to the city regulations? Yes, they would meet all the zoning requirements with this change in use, and it meets all the setbacks, and they would meet the building permit requirements for all the interior renovations that they are proposing. Is there any injury from traffic? No, staff believes that this would be equivalent to what the previous uses were, including the child care facility and the Teller County offices, and there's adequate access to the site. Is there adequate drainage, water, sewer, wastewater? Staff believes yes. In all of these cases, are there any hazards on the site? No, and the proposed change in use does not present any hazards, and is the architectural design in conformance, and staff believes it is. So, staff would recommend approval of the conditional use permit with some conditions. These conditions were outlined in the ordinance that was distributed with staff. I'm briefly going to go through them real quick. So the first condition is that the property owner is bound to the schematics, design, materials, and colors submitted in the application. And again, the colors are generic earth tone colors. The use shall be conducted wholly enclosed within the building with no outside storage of materials or equipment. There shall be no noise, odors, vibrations, glare, or fumes detected beyond the walls of the building. On-site exterior lighting shall not cast direct light beyond the property boundary and shall be full cutoff, 3,000 Kelvin or less, and motion activated if possible. Shall not exceed the lesser of 5 feet taller than the primary building height or 20 feet if pole mounted. And I don't believe the applicant is proposing any pole mounted lighting. There shall be no uses involving storing flammable or explosive materials, hazardous chemicals, paints, or solvents. All applicable development impact fees must be paid prior to the zoning development permit, which is concurrent with the building permit, and a commercial ZDP must be submitted and has been submitted with a final site plan, final floor plan, final lighting specs, and installation of backflow prevention device. And this zoning development permit as well as the building permit are both currently in review. So staff recommends that based on the findings contained in the staff report and as presented at the public hearing, that City Council approve and adopt ordinance number 1343 to rezone Lot 13 Paradise Estates filing number 2 with an address of 540 Manor Court from multifamily residential suburban MFS to community commercial CC. And that City Council approve and adopt ordinance number 1344 for a conditional use permit on Lot 13 Paradise Estates filing number 2, 540 Manor Court for Section 1809090R1 light repair service use as conditioned. That concludes my presentation, Mayor Levy. The applicant is here and has a presentation, and I would like him to make his presentation, and we can handle questions after that.
That sounds perfect. Thank you.
Okay.
Mr. Mayor, may I ask one real short question before she walks away? Can you tell me what the light repair service will be?
The applicant will go into his...
Thank you.
Yeah.
You knew that.
I did know that. I was just testing.
Todd, if you give us your name and address before you start, please. Thank you very much.
Yes, sir. My name is Todd Shaw, 293 Twin Lakes Drive. So my wife and I, Nancy, want to thank you guys for the opportunity to discuss this request with you and for your consideration in improving our project. Nancy and I started REOX in February 2009 here in Woodland Park as a Colorado LLC, which has celebrated 10 years of business here in town. REOX Medical Services is a medical equipment repair center. Our focus is the repair of electromechanical devices known as oxygen concentrators. We've grown the business to obtain manufacturer authorization to be factory authorized service centers for 2 of the 4 major manufacturers in this industry. We have grown to operate 2 locations, one here in Woodland Park and one in Corpus Christi, Texas. Woodland Park currently employs 13. We're actively seeking to fill 1 new position here in Woodland Park. And in Texas we employ 5 and are filling 1 more position there as well. So this here, you asked what we do. So a home oxygen concentrator is a pretty small device. It just gives supplemental breathing oxygen to anybody in need. As you guys know, in Woodland Park, there's a lot of people that need oxygen. Colorado in general, basically. But so we fix these devices. These are just a couple of examples of what we work on here. Here's another one. All right, so Nancy and I started S3 Investments. Again, it's a Colorado LLC, started in December of 2017. S3 Investments is just a property holding company that did purchase the building at 540 Manor Court. And we bought it with the intent to house our operational business, REOX Medical Services, at that location. As REOX continues to grow, we're requiring more space in a permanent home. We're currently occupying approximately 4,000 square feet at Tamarack on Research Parkway, Research Drive. We're currently on a month-to-month lease there, and we'd like to expand into the 5,865 feet that is at Manor Court and solidify our location in Woodland Park rather than evaluating lease options down in the Springs. Every time the lease comes up, we're always looking at what's the best option for us to stay in Woodland Park or move down to the Springs. When I started my own company, I didn't want to commute anymore, so I want to stay here in town. Woodland has limited spaces available for this size, so we purchased the building so we could be anchored to Woodland Park and bring a vacant building back to use here in the city. So in order to occupy Manor Court for Reox Medical, we are requesting a rezone of the property from MFS to CC and a conditional use permit for light repair services. We have evaluated, discussed with planning, and met the criteria for both the rezoning and the conditional use permit. In addition, the building was constructed as a commercial building and shows historical use as a commercial property. The requested zoning change is harmonious with the city plan and surrounding properties, and to the east and west, or to the south and west, are all zone CC with similar occupancies to what we're proposing here. This here is just the zoning map. Laura showed all this already. There's the property right there, outlined in red. So we're concurrently seeking the conditional use permit for light repair services. As shown on the map, the zoning is consistent with adjacent zoning, and use will be consistent with surrounding uses of the CC zone properties in that area. Ordinance 1343 and 1344, Series 2019, recommends approval of the zoning change and conditional use permit subject to the following conditions. So basically, these are the conditions Laura just spoke about. I'd like to just kind of address those and let you guys know that we are willing and able to comply with all of those. So the property owner shall be bound to the schematics. We agree to be bound to this condition. The use shall be conducted in a wholly enclosed building with no outside storage of materials or equipment, not to generate any noise, odors, vibrations, glare, or fumes beyond the building. The repair service that we provide is all indoors, does not generate any odors, noise, vibration, glare, or fumes. The devices that we work on produce approximately 42 decibels of noise. They say normal conversation is rated at 50 to 65 decibels. So each machine, we could have one running right here, and we'd barely notice it just sitting here talking. The on-site exterior lighting shall not cast direct beyond the light property boundary. We will comply with this, and this is addressed in the site plans that we've submitted to building departments for approval. There shall be no uses involving storing flammable or explosive materials, hazardous chemicals, paints, or solvents. Reox does not store any flammable or explosive materials, nor do we use or store hazardous chemicals or solvents. All applicable development fees must be paid prior to zoning development permit. We comply, and we will pay any fees that the city requests of us. Commercial ZDP must be submitted to and approved by the planning department. The plans have been submitted to the planning department and are pending approval. So we've got some of the approvals in place currently. Others are still pending approval, but we are working on that. We will comply with the request of the planning department in all of these aspects. So this here is just a picture of the proposed building. We do want to upgrade the stucco, upgrade the facade of the building to bring it to that Mountain West theme. We've come up with some awnings to put over the building to kind of make the building a little more symmetrical, get the earth tones back on the building, and just kind of upgrade it, make it look a little nicer. We thank you guys for your consideration. Does anybody have any questions?
I'm sure we do. Let's start with who? Val.
Just a brief question. I think I think it's the west side is next to the cemetery. Yes,
the north side.
North
Yes,
side.
sir.
North side. Okay, whatever. And there's a hillside there. Is there any grading or impact to that's imagined for this development?
There is no grading necessary or required.
Okay, thank you.
Carol.
Since this is the new use, which has actually been the whole use the whole time it's been there, will there be a requirement for a barrier? Since we had the discussion previously with the Microtel project, will there be a requirement for a structure or a fence between this zone and the suburban residential?
No, there is no requirement, nor is there any outside storage. If they were proposing outside storage, there might be that requirement.
Oh, okay.
But at this point, there is none.
Council, anything else before we go to public comment? Okay, sounds good. Sit right there and or stay close, because you may have to rebut some things. We'll open public comment, and I've got one person signed up, and that is Carl Anderson.
Good evening, Carl Anderson, 602 County Road 511. I also own the building in front of their building. And I will tell you, since the county vacated that location, there's been vandalism has gone on there. There's been unwanted parked cars in the lot. And to be honest with you, I really look forward to having a neighbor back there to help keep the neighborhood intact. And as you've all seen and heard, you know, the hoops that the Shaws are jumping through tonight really should have been done by the state. And they've done their due diligence and have worked very hard at this. And I wish that you would grant them their conditional use and the change there to community commercial, because it really does fit the area and will be a good addition to Woodland Park and our community there. So that's my 2 cents worth. Thank you for your time.
Thank you, Carl. Appreciate it. Anybody else that's not signed up on item number 9A? Okay, if not, we'll close the public comment. Council, do we have anything else? Any other questions?
Should we, each ordinance will have to be considered separately?
That's correct. That said, if there's no other questions, I'll encourage a motion for, excuse me, I'm sorry, for close the public comment for ordinance number 1343 to be approved.
I'll move to approve. Second.
Suzanne.
Case? Yes. Harvey?
Yes.
LeVar?
Yes.
Levy?
Yes.
Saunier?
Yes.
Sawyer?
Yes.
Carr?
Yes.
Thank you. Motion carries unanimously.
Okay. Same thing for ordinance number 1344, please.
Motion to approve ordinance 1344.
Second.
Suzanne.
Thank you. Harvey?
Yes.
LeVar?
Yes.
Levy?
Yes.
Saunier?
Yes.
Sawyer?
Yes.
Carr?
Yes.
Case?
Yes.
Thank you. Motion carries unanimously.
Thank you all very much. Congratulations. Sounds like you got a great business, and we're glad you want to do it in Woodland Park. So
Yes.
Thank you very, very much.
Thank you.
You bet. Okay. That was great. We'll move on to item number 9B, and considering approval of the Haven at Paradise. We get Sally for this.
Yes, thank you. This is a preliminary plat, and we have not seen a preliminary plat for about 8 years, so it's kind of fun reviewing a preliminary plat subdivision. This is to consider a 35-acre unplatted parcel that is located north of Kings Crown Road to develop 24 single-family lots in the suburban residential zone. And part of the Top of Paradise Master Plan, this is requested by William F. Brown, Jr. of Paradise Estates, Inc. Mr. Brown is unable to be here this evening. However, his engineer, Mike Bramlett, is here to represent the applicant. The Planning Commission had a public hearing on March 14th and recommends approval. And tonight is the council hearing. Located, you can see the star on the eastern side of Highway 24, and up next to the National Forest. This is one of the last areas to develop up on near Kings Crown. Here is the zoning map that shows the suburban residential site, circled in red. And it is part of this Top of Paradise area that is part of the Paradise Estates neighborhood. The blue are greenways or public spaces, public, semi-public, and then you can see Highway 24 with the commercial abutting Highway 24. Here's an aerial photograph of this 35-acre tract. And you can see that it is fairly open and forested in some areas. The topography varies on this site, so that this area closer to the forest and next to the city open space is fairly steep. It is proposed as private open space. The developable area is down near this part of the property. Sorry. This is the slope analysis for Top of Paradise. Circled in the lower right-hand corner is the 24 lots, and it also has the topography. I'll zoom in a little bit to show you how the road layout was anticipated during the master plan process in 2005. And the preliminary plat is very similar to this layout, except that the roads will be slightly shorter. And there are 2 less lots. This shows 26 lots. The proposal is for 24. Here is the preliminary plat, which I have provided on your desk. It was revised on March 28th after the Planning Commission hearing and after I had sent out your staff report. So provided on your desk is the recently revised plat for the Haven. And you can see there is the first cul-de-sac will be named Blue Haven Place. The cul-de-sac off to the left is Red Haven Place. The reason for the shadow area on this is that is an existing water easement. There was a water line that extended from the new city water tank up on Top of Paradise over to Kings Crown, and that was done in 2008 or completed in 2008. And this easement is an existing easement that will be now combined into the plat. You can also see the 12-acre open space off to the east here, and it adjoins Kings Crown Road both to the south and to the west, or the east. Sorry. This is the access point that has always been planned for this subdivision. You can see that this is fairly very developable in this lower portion, not too hilly or highly treed. They also submitted a grading plan that shows the grades of the roads. Our maximum grade for a city street is 10%. However, 12% is allowed in certain places with the city engineer's approval. There is a small section of roadway that will be at 12% at the maximum. This is the utility plan that was also revised after the Planning Commission meeting on March 22nd, in which the easements were added. One of the important aspects of this utility plan is, first of all, the existing water line comes in from the northwest, will follow Red Haven Drive or Place, and then it connects down to Kings Crown. This water line will be extended up Blue Haven Place to the end of the cul-de-sac, and then it will be looped between the 2 cul-de-sacs so to provide for adequate fire flow and service to these 24 lots. One of the conditions that the Planning Commission added to this was that this loop must be completed in the first phase of development. This phase will likely be the first cul-de-sac for the first filing, and you will see a final plat later in the development. The other infrastructure that I need to point out is that they are going to request a 40-foot road right-of-way for these public streets. And a variance is required because currently our city standards require a 50-foot road right-of-way. However, we have the utility companies for IREA and Black Hills Gas and the telecom folks they have decided now not to utilize the road right-of-way within the 50 feet. They are placing their utilities in the 10-foot easement on either side of the road right-of-way. So in order to eliminate a 70-foot wide swath of clearance, the city engineer has looked at this and staff very closely and feel that a 40-foot road right-of-way is perfectly adequate with the dry utilities on either side of the road. And this will preserve much of the environment and allow for a better arrangement, since the dry utility companies will only place their utilities in the easements. And we will probably come back, just as a side note, and request an amendment to our subdivision regulations to allow for the option of a 40-foot road right-of-way. It still adequately provides for the 24-foot mat, the asphalt area, as well as 2 feet of curb and gutter on either side, and then even a small bench 5 feet on either side of that curb and gutter. This is the slope analysis that was done in order to determine whether we have any hillside lots on this site. And a hillside lot is defined as 50% or more of the lot is above 30%. As you can see, the open space has quite a large area of fairly steep slopes. Well, the lot 15 and then lots 20 and 21 we believe may be hillside lots, and driveway designs have been submitted with this, as well as building footprints to assure us that there is a adequate building site as well as adequate access from the public road in order to build on those 3 lots. Here is the driveway exhibit that was also prepared for the fire district. The fire district met with staff and with the applicant's engineer in order to discuss how we can best locate homes on these larger lots at the top of this subdivision, and Chief Lambert was satisfied with this arrangement. Here's another aerial perspective that you can get a better feel for the surrounding terrain and the layout of the surrounding roads, Kings Crown Road, the access off of Kings Crown Road, and how this site will be developed. In terms of code compliance, preliminary plat section 17.20 is what we look at, and there are a number of areas that are reviewed with the preliminary plat, including the preparation process. There was a pre-application meeting that we held last October to review a vicinity sketch plan, which was in substantial conformance to the 2005 Paradise Master Plan. Looking at the design and drawings, this is an acceptable drawing at 1 inch equals 80 feet with the additional grading plan, utilities plan, slope analysis, and driveway exhibit. There will need to be an index added to the preliminary plat for all these additional plans. The information section is more of a technical list, quite an extensive list. The plan is drawn by a professional land surveyor and has been reviewed according to that criteria. We just have a few minor requirements or needs for edits. The supplemental material includes a letter of intent, This contains most of the necessary information, however, needs to be edited to include the request for the variance of a 40-foot road right-of-way, and that we are also asking that the homes be set back at 30 feet as opposed to 25 feet, simply because now we've shortened the width of the road right-of-way. We want to maintain the homes being at least far enough off that roadway. The master plan, it is consistent with the master plan from 2005. They've submitted the adjoiner neighbors, and neighbors were notified and attended the Planning Commission meeting. There are no geological hazards. The drawings do adequately show the water and sewer lines, as well as drainage and street grades and the horizontal and vertical curve data. The proposed variance we've already discussed for the 40-foot road right-of-way with a 30-foot front yard setback. Preliminary utilities report was submitted and reviewed by our city engineer, Ben Schmidt. It was determined to be adequate, and that the also elevations of these homes was determined that the pressures may need to have a booster pump depending upon how far up the hill homes are placed. We've also analyzed the snow storage areas in the cul-de-sacs to ensure that there's adequate space for snow storage. The surveyor's calculation for the road area has now been provided. It's about 1.6 acres. The school district checklist is not applicable. The hillside lots we've already mentioned and have submitted adequate building footprints and driveway plans. The approval for a preliminary plat is valid for 2 years. However, if they submit their final plat, it extends for another year. They can always come back and ask for an extension. It is in conformance with the existing zoning and subdivision regulations with respect to minimum lot size, frontage, and being fully serviced by water and sewer. Heights, setbacks, and parking will all be reviewed with each home. We also look at the design standards for a subdivision, and so the purpose of this subdivision is a well-designed subdivision in conformance with the master plan, including the lot layout, streets, open space, all having a sensible approach and considering the neighborhood. The site considerations, 24 lots on approximately 24 acres of the 36-acre parcel with the 12-acre open space is very suitable for development. The streets, alleys, and easements have all been addressed, and it does have connection down the hill via Kings Crown along Sun Valley Drive, Ponderosa Way, and Paradise Valley. It is also in compliance with the frontage. Street names are acceptable. The easements are drawn on the utility plan, are adequate. They do need to be modified on the preliminary plat, and lots are reasonably arranged and buildable. Referrals have been made to the appropriate agencies. Public notices have been done in accordance to our standards. The Parks and Recreation Board has reviewed this application, recommend fees in lieu of land, and these fees are earmarked for development within the neighborhood, specifically Chimney Park or other spaces. The Planning Commission did recommend approval with 2 additional comments. One of those comments was that Lot 14 did not meet the 40 foot of frontage. That has now been corrected on Lot 14, so it has adequate frontage. And, of course, completing the construction of the water line. So with that, Planning Commission and staff recommend approval with 5 conditions, minor edits to the preliminary plat. They have addressed most of those edits in this revision. The revised letter of intent needs to be resubmitted. The park capital fees will be paid with the final plat. A wildfire mitigation plan will be submitted and implemented as part of the construction phase of this project, and complete the water line loop between the cul-de-sacs. The next step for this, should it get approved tonight, is for the applicant to move forward with their construction drawings, detailed construction drawings, and then they are able to move forward with construction of the infrastructure based upon the preliminary plat. They will come back with a final plat at some point in time, usually toward the end of construction. I'd be happy to answer any questions.
Let's start. Sure, I'll start. I didn't realize there was more land to develop in this town, so it's impressive to see the let's just build on a hillside. 12% grade, just for comparison, what is Kelly Road Hill grade?
I don't know off the top of my head.
Okay,
I recall that Bill Alsbach would say that it exceeds the 12%, probably more like 14, 16%.
Okay, so I think if anything's less than that, it's probably fine. So, okay, thank you.
Carol.
I had a question about the private open space and to be maintained by an HOA. Does that infer that it would not be accessible by the public?
It would only be open to the neighborhood and not the general public. Mr. Brown, though, is kind of contemplating whether that would be dedicated to the city and be tie into the existing open space that the city had received many, many years ago.
But that hasn't been done.
Has not been finalized.
And then I noticed in the USDA letter from our ranger district that no construction of trails to connect that public open space to national forest will be allowed.
That's
a lot
correct.
Of trails in there right now.
There are many social trails through there that people and animals have worn in. The official trail for this neighborhood is at the end of Kings Crown. That is part of the Systems Trail, and the U.S. Forest Service prefer not to open new trails simply because they don't have the resources to manage them.
Kelly.
Well, oftentimes HOAs don't stay in existence. There's many neighborhoods that have covenants, but their HOAs are no longer in effect to enforce those covenants. And so, Sally, what happens if this open space is owned by the HOA and the HOA goes away?
That's a very good question, because they will need to at least pay their minimal taxes on this. And I think that if it does go away, they should consider donating it to the city, and maybe even Mr. Brown will consider that before we're done.
And maybe you mentioned that they're paying fees in lieu of land.
Yes.
So this would maybe be, if this were dedicated, would it meet that dedication requirement for this subdivision and make those fees in lieu of go away? Not necessarily.
Not necessarily. In the dedication chapter, it distinguishes between parkland, which is usable for development of public parks, versus open space. And open space is usually set aside of areas that are undevelopable. So you must meet the parkland dedication. And so this would not be considered parkland.
It just seems like it makes better sense for it to become public property because of the HOAs, and it's not a significant development to really support an HOA that would be effective in ways other than just enforcing covenants and things like that. So it just would make sense from my perspective. Thank you.
It's a very good point, and we can emphasize that to Mr. Brown.
Are we not building right next to this? Did we not just approve an HOA right next to this property in the same neighborhood?
You approved the Highlands edition. Let me go back to the large. Okay, so I know this is hard to see, but if you'll follow my cursor, the Majestic Parkway comes right up here and to a roundabout.
It's about half a mile.
Yeah, to the roundabout. And there is the Highlands down here. So it's quite a ways away. You do not connect these two properties. You have to come back down toward the highway and then up. So they're in different drainage basins as well.
Okay. I'll ask the designer the next question.
Anybody else, council, before we talk to the architect? What do you want to do?
And engineer Mike Bramlett is here, and he just had knee surgery. So
hand him the mic so
I'm
he
going to
doesn't have
hand
to
him.
get up. Mike, just give us your name and address. We'll go from there.
Sure. Mike Bramlett. I'm with JR Engineering. We're at 5475 Tech Center Drive in Colorado Springs. I also live at 831 Majestic Parkway in Woodland Park.
Thanks, Mike. Do you have anything to add, or would you just want to take questions?
Just take questions.
Okay, sounds good. Paul, would you like to start then?
Sure. I know this is preliminary, but with your blacktop, how many inches of blacktop will you be using for your roads?
The city standard, which it's two options on blacktop. It's either full depth or crushed aggregate base plus a thinner section of asphalt. And that hasn't been decided yet. Kip, help me out. I want to say if it's a composite base, it's 4 inches. If it's full depth, it's 5 or 6 inches.
Right. They'll meet city specs.
Okay, thank you. And when you do a grading plan, will you also be doing a stormwater plan with that?
Yes, sir. We will do both a grading plan, an erosion control plan, and a stormwater management plan. Since this disturbance is greater than 1 acre, that would also require notification of the state and permits through them.
Okay, so you understand all that. And then your detention pond down at the bottom, where will that go after the water enters the detention pond? Should it get enough water to have it overflow?
And it will flow. It is a detention pond, so it will fill up, it will drain over a time period, and it will fill up again with the next storm. The water, I think the best, in the Plan Commission I used the aerial, but our water would be collected, go into a storm sewer, this water up here would go in a storm sewer here.
Okay.
This water would collect here, go into the pond. The pond would have an outlet that goes to the ditch along Kings Crown Road, and that ditch goes to right about here, and it crosses Kings Crown and an existing culvert, that's adequate for the flows that we're proposing, and then goes on down through the existing subdivision out to Sun Valley and then across 24 into Fountain Creek. And I don't know, Sally, if you have it in this presentation. I didn't see it. The aerial.
There.
Yeah. Okay. This is perfect. There's the outlet on the other side of Kings Crown. It's a riprap into a natural drainage that then flows down.
On the fire mitigation, in this open space that you're going to be giving them, is that where the wildfire mitigation will be taking place? I don't see very many trees on here.
So we enlisted the help of the Forest Extension to prepare a wildfire mitigation plan. They've issued that to Mr. Brown. I've reviewed it. What they recommended is some of the trees. They recommended trimming the first 9 feet to keep ladder fire from going up. They recommended some reduction in the clumps of the mountain mahogany and also in the oak brush. And we'll work with them. I'm trying to set up a meeting with them on what they want in this open space, because that's some of the area where the oak brush is primarily at. So we'll work through their recommendation and meet with them and adhere to their input as the expert.
Well, I appreciate you answering my questions, and you can understand my concern on a slope like this with a previous project we just had with flooding and vehicle tracking coach not tracking your debris all over the neighborhood, and land that you're grading down, retaining your soils on the land.
Yes, sir.
Silt fences and everything being installed properly and explained on the design plan, your grading plan, how exactly it's going to be done. I just seen a lot of flooding and a lot of debris leaving land, but I hope the project is a complete success for you and everything goes well.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Anybody else, council? Let's open public comment. Anybody like to speak on this issue? Come right on up, sir. Yes, please.
Thank you. Chris Mirabella, 1410 Kings Crown Road. I live kind of just to the right of the aerial here, and I guess my concern, or just the matter I have is, I heard a bunch of maybes back and forth about what was going to happen with that potential open space that Mr. Brown still controls, which is adjacent to the city's open space. And before you take a vote to go forward with any planning, I'd like to kind of hear what those maybes look like, if that was possible, to if some of those maybes are answered before we hear on that. Thank you.
Thank you, sir. Sally?
Yes. When a property owner proposes a new subdivision, it is really their choice as to whether they set aside the unbuildable land as continued to be private property, as open space. We always defer to the property owner if it is not shown on our Parks, Trails, and Open Space map as future open space. This was not shown as future open space, so we defer to the property owner, but I have had conversations with Mr. Brown and that he is willing to dedicate it, but he hadn't fully made up his mind. So that's why I'm sorry we have kind of a difference, and it really is finalized at the time of final plat. So the the discussion is open, but if council is interested in having control and ownership of the open space, you can send a preference forward or a edict forward.
As part of the preliminary plat approval?
Yes.
May I ask one more question?
Please.
If the water pressure is not sufficient enough to feed the residents up above, are we responsible for putting in a lift pump, or is the developer?
No, sir. Actually, the property owner who purchases the property and builds the home is responsible for that booster pump.
Thank you. Thank you.
Council, anything else? I'm going to close public comment unless there's anybody else that would like to come forward. Okay, public comment is closed. And final questions?
I just have a comment. I'm sorry, I should have spoken up earlier. Your fire mitigation, Dave Root does an excellent job. He did our whole neighborhood a couple times in the last 10 years and does an excellent job with ladder fuels and all that kind of stuff. So pay attention to what he says, I would suggest.
Thank you. Anybody else? Kelly?
I would just like to encourage, because of the history with HOAs, and I see it a lot in my business, that I think it would be the right thing to do for that to be made public land. It would just be my encouragement for Mr. Brown. As an individual, I can't speak.
Kelly, would you support a motion to approve the preliminary plat under the condition that that parcel be turned over to the city?
Ooh. I don't know if I'm ready to go that far, but
It's a big ask for me.
it is
as a
for me
developer.
too. It's public property. I mean, it's private property, and I don't like to legislate what people do. Private property. I just feel like it just seems like it would solve a pending issue that would come forward in the future.
HOA can always
It
get
doesn't-
up in the future,
It doesn't. It's not a deal breaker for me.
Mike, we talked about the extension and the amount of time that you have with this improvement if it happens. Do you have a real sense as to how Mr. Brown's going to move forward, or better yet, when he's going to move forward?
Mr. Brown we've provided a proposal for construction drawings. We're working through the details on that. I would expect us to have construction drawings within a month. His expectation is to do the first filing this year. His expectation of us is to engineer the entire subdivision as a fully engineered, and then his construction would be the first filing, cut in the roads up to the upper cul-de-sac, which is the second filing, install the whole water line as required or as discussed in the conditions, and second filing following year. So he's interested in moving forward, and it's kind of up to us to get the drawings done and the drainage report.
That helps. So he's looking to do this right away.
I think he would. He told me in a conversation this last week that he would like to do it before June. Construction begin for first filing.
How many homes in the first filing?
Be about 12, 11.
About half of it.
Yeah, and there's just one lot that has got to decide whether it's going to be in or out of the first filing. The first filing would be. This is good.
22.
The first filing would be this cul-de-sac, so it would come down through here, and this lot 22 has got to be decided whether it's in the first filing or not in the first filing. That's the question at this point.
Great. Thank you. Anybody else?
I just wanted to make a quick comment on the open space idea. Obviously, I'm not okay with making someone do something with their private property. And the whole thing, too, is in the future or while this is getting built or beforehand, Mr. Brown might want to get the advice of an attorney, because he could always make first right of refusal if the HOA dissolves, and it could go to his heirs, something like that. So It's just my 2 cents. That's all.
Thank you for your 2 cents. Val?
I want to concur with Councilmember Case with, I would, not a deal breaker for me either, and I likewise with Councilmember Labar. I'm never one to wish imposing something, but I would like to encourage Mr. Brown to strongly consider dedicating that to the city, but it's not a deal breaker for me either.
Anybody else? Okay, council, you know what's before you. I will encourage a motion to consider approval of the preliminary plat for Paradise.
Strongly encourage.
Strongly encourage.
So moved.
Second? Noel's got a second.
Thank you.
Suzanne?
Labar?
Yes.
Levy?
Yes.
Saunier?
Yes.
Sawyer?
Yes.
Carr?
Yes.
Case?
Yes.
Harvey?
Yes.
Thank you. Motion carries unanimously.
Mike and Sally, thanks
Thank
very
you.
much. Great presentation. It certainly cleared up a lot of questions in my mind. Okay, we have no new business tonight. And so we'll move on to the mayor's report. I've got a few events to mention. Wednesday, April 10th at 8 o'clock is the Teller County Cares Service Awards at the UPass Cultural Center. RSVP is required, or at least asked for. There will be food for breakfast, and I happen to sit on this committee, and I think that we've made some great changes. We have a number of tremendous recipients that have volunteered in our community for a long, long time. And so it's a great opportunity for us in the county to work together and thank those people. One of those people that has given a lifetime almost service is our own council person, Carol Harvey, who will be receiving the Les Malott Award. And we are fortunate always to have her with us, and congratulations on the award, Carol.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. Is that measured in dog years or?
Yeah, well, we'll find out. We'll find out. Also, Wednesday, April 10th, 6:30, the Business and Economic Market Analysis Report at the UPass Cultural Center. You want to comment on that, Darren, or that's
Here, isn't it? It's here. It's here, Neil.
That's what Stephanie spoke of.
Oh, yeah, sorry. It still says UPass Cultural Center. My bad. Okay, Thursday, April 11th, day after 5 to 7, Chamber Springs Business Expo at the UPass Cultural Center. I get that one right, Deb? All right, so that one will be here. We're at the Cultural Center. Monday, April 15th, 5 to 9 is Krabby Tax Night at the Cristola Roadhouse. And Tuesday, April 16th, 5:30 to 7, Chamber Business After Hours at the Woodland Professional Building. I got to brag about my team a little bit because we're not always real successful. I've got a baseball team of 12 kids that are an amazing group of kids. It's real different. They all kind of love each other, work together. We have no elite talent. We just won our third game in a row today to move our record to 4-6. We're still not where we want to be, but really proud of my guys because it's really, really fun when everybody gets together, plays together, loves each other, and so we're getting that this year, and they're representing your community and your high school very, very well. On our trip back from Phoenix, where we spent a week at spring break, I got an email from the manager at the La Quinta in Phoenix, and he said that it was, exact words, I don't know, one of the best group of kids that they've ever had there. So for me, for sure, I'm really proud of my guys, and I would encourage you to come watch sometime. Our next home game will be Monday at 4 o'clock at Panther Field. I want to be sure and thank our city staff. Kip and his guys have been amazing because all the snow that we've had, and honestly, we practiced for the first time on the field like 2 days ago because of the nature of our weather this year. but these guys have done unbelievable work to get it cleared and get it ready for play. And everybody that comes here to play, we've only had 2 home games this year, just loves being here and loves the opportunity to play at Panther Field. So thanks very much. Okay, Val.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. I had the pleasure of watching a couple innings today of the ball game and saw
great coaching.
Squeeze play. You hardly ever see those successful. We got that in one of the innings I saw, so that was a real nice home plate play. Keep Woodland Park Beautiful and Main Street that I sit on and DDA are getting together next week. I believe it's on the 9th, along with the city, and we're going to talk about the beautification issues and try to coordinate from the city leading, I think, but at least we'll be all in the same room for a change, and maybe we'll have a coordinated effort going forward, and I'm really looking forward to that. Sally's going to lead that effort. Miss Riley up there. Sally and I know each other for a long time, so I'm sorry to be informal. But anyway, that's something we're looking forward to. Keep Woodland Park Beautiful and Main Street have really been harping on this. I know the DDA has been after this for quite a while, and we're looking to actually do some things instead of talking about some things. So I'm looking forward to that.
Thank you, sir. Kelly?
Thank you.
I just wanted to report the DDA had their retreat Tuesday evening at the Bristlecone. Thanks to the Bristlecone for allowing us to meet there without any charge. It was very kind of them to do that. And we had some good conversation. We had a lengthy agenda and managed to touch on everything, have some plans in place, and the DDA is going to be putting together some action plans in writing to keep the council on up to speed and to engage us in their activities. So I wanted to report that to everyone and look for more coming from the DDA.
Thanks, Kelly.
You're welcome.
Carol?
Just a thank you to Public Works. I know the snow's not over yet, but thanks for the effort this past season. Always able to get out of my driveway.
Thank you. I'll pass that along to the guys. They take a lot of pride in that.
Great job.
Thanks, Hillary.
I don't have anything this evening, thanks.
Oh, yeah, I think you're too modest. I know a pitcher right now, young Elliott, who's throwing in the mid-90s over there in California, and he's been there 2 years away from the Woodland Park team. He's doing a great job, and he's just been offered a full scholarship to another college that will be even better for him. And I believe one of your pitchers actually was recruited into the Orioles 2 years ago. And we have had some great talent come out of Woodland Park. So kudos to you and the guys who put it together and run a good sports agenda for Woodland Park. It must be the oxygen up here.
Well, and I say this all the time, and you laugh, but it's the truth. Good players make good coaches.
Absolutely.
And so, if you get good talent, it's a little bit easier. This is a different situation this year where guys are just working harder than anybody else, and it's a rarity. In my many, many years, it just doesn't happen. But I appreciate you got to come out and watch Connor's brother pitch, because he throws about 60, but he gets kids out. So it's fun to watch.
It's great.
Thank you very much, Noel. Nothing for Noel. Before we move on to Darren, we need to discuss the possibility of canceling our council meeting on the 20th of June, and we can come to some consensus and then change if we have to, if we need a special meeting. But that's when a lot of us will be at CML. So if we can have that concurrence, we'll schedule accordingly. And again, if we have something that is a need to see, we can have it the week before or the week after. Do I have concurrence with you all on that? Do you need a motion
This
for that?
consensus is fine.
Is that okay?
Thank you.
All right, thank you very much. I'll turn it over to our city attorney.
Nothing to add.
Let me say something before we move on, because this guy is like the smartest guy I know now. and he's only been here for a couple of months, and I can't tell you how pleased we all are to have him with us every day, and just got a great approach, and we love our new city attorney, so thank you very much. Has anyone ever said they love the city attorney?
My wife says that from time to time.
He's got a great
I appreciate it.
Thanks. Great job, Jason. We appreciate it, too. Darren?
I can't top that. That's awesome.
We love you, too.
Thank you. I just want to follow up on a request for information that was requested, I believe, at the last meeting. Councilmember Harvey asked about the deer count. I just want to let you know we've contacted Parks and Wildlife and waiting for the answer on that. We'll get that to City Council as soon as we get it. Also want to update City Council and the public on our plan for strategic planning. We will be holding a meeting at the UPass Cultural Center on April 25th. I believe it's 5:30. Starts at 5:30, and will be live streamed, I believe, as the first community meeting for strategic planning to get input from our community to help the City Council through the strategic planning process. Prior to that, or between that meeting and the retreat, there'll be the consultant will be conducting interviews of at least 20 stakeholders to get additional input to bring to the retreat, and so we'll be identifying those 20 rather soon so that we can get that done. And then May 20th we'll have the retreat from 07 to 1500 at the Swiss Chalet to knock out the retreat and get some direction from City Council for the future and be able to use that in a lot of different things, including the budget cycle and the comprehensive planning cycle and everything. And then we'll have a final community meeting on May 28th at the UPass Cultural Center. I believe again it starts at 5:30, but it ends a little bit later, and that'll be the opportunity to provide the draft plan to the community and get additional feedback from them before it goes back to City Council for any modifications and final approval in early June. So with that, I believe that is all I have. Is there anything from City Council? Yes, I was going to have Kip talk about some pavement.
Wanted to give council a heads up that they'll be seeing on the council agenda the chip seal contract from A1 Chip Seal. It was a multi-year contract that actually expired in 2018, but we've met with the contractor and they have graciously agreed to extend the pricing that we had off that 3-year contract to 2019, and we're trying to take advantage of that pricing as well as add additional years off the pavement management plan into that chip seal. So what we're planning for 2019 is to chip seal everything that the pavement management plan recommended in 2019, 20, and 21, because in 2020 and 21, very small segments, I think it was 1.7 miles in 2020 and only 0.3 miles in 2021. We wanted to add those in now while we have the cheaper pricing, because they're honoring the 2017 pricing that we had. So we're trying to take advantage of that. So council will see that contract come forward at the next council meeting. Any questions on that contract? So that'll be just shy of about $600,000. That includes crack seal, chip seal, double chip, and fog seal. So, and then I just want to add one other thing. Just new revelations with the purchase of the loader for the wastewater treatment plant. We're kind of excited. We've pursued new options with purchasing this loader to where none of our big equipment is on a replacement program, if you will. We use it until you can't anymore. Some of our smaller equipment, we pay a small fee every year and it gets replaced. We've got 2 vendors to give us estimates on replacing the big equipment to the point to where you get a new piece of equipment every 1 or 2 years for a small fee, and at the end of it all, you still get a brand new loader if you were to choose to opt out. So we're kind of excited about that because also when you get new equipment, it comes with new warranties. And you get a new warranty. So, for example, you get a warranty for 10 years, and then at the end of 10 years, you still have a new one. So, just a quick update on that.
You guys get excited about really weird things.
New equipment, it's boys and their toys, I guess.
I just want to, the point in Kip bringing this pavement contract to City Council tonight is that communication that we've talked about. If you have questions related to this contract, we'll get it to you before that. If we need to have a work session to discuss it, please let me know. It's a little unusual from our normal procedures, but it's a good process for us because we're getting a really good deal on it. So, but if you have questions, please let us know. Kip can either say Kip Seal. Can I'm going to start calling him that.
I'm in call
can meet with you and answer your questions if you have them. But I wanted to make sure you had all the information you need before you made a decision on that. Thank you.
And I just want to add that Ben's worked really hard on trying to put that pricing together for this contract. So
And that's all out of the 401.
Yes.
Or I'm sorry, the 410.
410. Sorry, I knew what you meant.
Anything else, sir? That's it. Thank you all for attending tonight, and council, have a wonderful evening. This meeting's adjourned.